Hey everyone, and welcome back to Battleborn. I've got a new build to share with you. I call this one Missile Barrage, and it's for Benedict. This is a high burst damage, high mobility build, and it is really fun to play. Now before I get started, if you want to run this build exactly the way that I do, you'll need to finish Benedict's lore challenges to pick up his legendary. But the build works just fine without it. It's just I prefer to use it because I think it's really awesome. And I've got a tip for you on two of his worst lore challenges. If you want to get the flying challenge really easily, just go into a mission, hold down the L2 button, shoot off your liftoff and do a double jump, and then slowly glide down to the ground. And as soon as you hit the ground, double jump back up and glide back down and just rinse and repeat. Use liftoff whenever it's off of cooldown, and for whatever reason, your flying time will skyrocket, and you'll get that done in minutes instead of hours. And also for his other lore challenge to group with 3 other peacekeepers, you can, if you have a second controller and a friend with a second controller, you can group up with that friend. You can both run 2 accounts, jump into a mission on hardcore, kill yourselves at the beginning, and that will count for that lore challenge. So you can do that with a friend if you've got a friend that plays the game with you. So let's jump into that build. I'll show you my Hilux choices first. So for the first Helix, we're gonna go to the left for Evasive Pattern Benedict. And that's going to launch us up and backwards now with our liftoff, which helps us get out of bad situations and just improves our mobility quite a bit, since that launch backwards is ridiculous. For level 2, we're gonna go with Make Some Room, just another extra utility in helping us escape bad situations. We're gonna knock the enemies away from us as well when we use that liftoff. Level 3, I go with Ready Rockets. You absolutely need that reload speed, and you can use a trick to essentially fire endless amounts of rockets, but I'll go into that later in this video. For Helix number 4, we go to the right, a Murder of Rockets. That is going to give us that burst damage that we need to blow people up. Level 5, we go with the Tailwind to increase our flight speed. You don't want to be flying super slow. It just leaves you open to enemy fire, so having that extra flight speed really helps out. For level 6, we go with the heavy Bombardment. That's just going to further increase that burst damage, because we're going to use the Murder of Rockets, and then we're gonna have Homing Rockets following up behind it, and that's just gonna increase their damage. For level 7, I go with Surgical Strike. Now, the rockets can be hard to aim. It takes a lot getting used to, but we want the extra damage, so we're gonna have to improve our aim even more and get that Surgical Strike to really do a ton of damage with our rockets. Number 8, I go with First Class, just more of that survivability. If I'm using liftoff, I'm probably using it to get out of a bad situation, and having those shields pop up really helps me out. Number 9, I go with Party Starter, just more damage, more damage, more damage, more damage. And number 10, I go with Phoenix Protocol. It's going to add a huge damage over time to my ult, which is more damage, which I want more damage. So that's the one I go with there. So let me show you my gear. Let's head on over there to my Benedict loadout. So I've got his legendary here. It's got that awesome effect of landing rockets while airborne, reduces all active cooldowns by 1 second. That, if you're really good at flying and shooting, that's gonna make your cooldowns just fly. The cooldown just basically doesn't exist anymore. You can just shoot off your abilities like crazy. So that's why I like using his legendary. Also, I go with this Eviscerating Endoskeletal Graft. That's going to increase my attack damage and attack speed. I don't really care about the attack speed, but the attack damage, I just want as much damage as I can get because I'm looking for massive burst. And then I've got this fancy legendary here. This one comes from Jeff, or Arachnus, in the algorithm mission. So if you want this exact item, you'll need to farm for that. It increases my skill damage, which really helps with that burst damage, and shield penetration, which is just sort of an added bonus. But the reason that I use it is its special ability. Skill hits prevent enemy shields from charging for 8 seconds. So the way this build works is I'll missile barrage them, or that's what I call it, when I just unleash my cooldowns on them. And then that's definitely going to take out their shields and take out a good portion of their health. And then a lot of times they'll try to run away from me. Now, it's not always easy to hit enemies on the run, so I want as much buffer time as I can get with their shields not coming back up, because I might be chasing them down and I might miss a few rockets and then they get those shields back up. Or I'm chasing them down with an ultimate and I just need that extra time so those shields don't come up and save them. So that ability really helps me to finish people off. So that's why I go with that shield web interdictor, or however you say that. Alright, so let's jump into some clips and I'll explain how you should be using this build. On levels 1 and 2 for Benedict, you want to pick your battles very carefully. Your rockets do a lot of damage, but they're difficult to hit enemies with because of their slow projectile speed. On top of that, you only have a small amount of burst damage capability on the first levels, and it's nowhere near enough to overwhelm anyone. Your best bet is to help take out minions and structures from afar and help your teammates if they engage other players. If you manage to get the drop on someone and isolate them from the rest of their group, you can win a 1 versus 1 fight, but it requires you to be really good with aiming those rockets, or them to be really bad with their aim. It's much safer to just focus on minions or assisting your allies by raining down missiles from a safe vantage point. Anytime you find yourself in close proximity to an enemy player, it's usually best to just lift off out of there and rain down fire from the sky, or just run away completely. Use your mobility to snag up as many shards as you can so you can get that gear activated quickly. But make sure to not get too distracted by crystal gathering, because you need to level up as fast as you can to start doing some real damage. At level 3, you pick up the reload speed increase, and that allows you to use a trick to essentially get infinite ammo. Your rockets can only be shot about once every second, and now your reload speed is about 1 second. So you can shoot a rocket, reload a rocket, and shoot a new rocket as soon as the ammo is added and not lose any firing speed. Now this is pretty easy to do when you're just shooting and reloading, but in tense situations, it can be hard to get the timing right. It's not essential that you be able to do the reload trick, as oftentimes I mess up the timing or forget to do it myself, but it will prevent you from running into situations where you could have finished someone off, but instead you have to reload. So I highly recommend that you practice this trick and at least be able to do it most of the time. At level 4, you get the Murder of Rockets, which gives you 2 additional rockets on your Hawkeye ability, and that's where you get the burst damage to start taking people out. If you land all 3 Hawkeye rockets as well as the follow-up homing shots, it's a ton of damage. Now remember, as soon as the last Hawkeye rocket leaves the barrel, you can immediately shoot a regular rocket, so you end up shooting out 4 rockets insanely fast. This is the missile barrage this build is named for, and it's a scary amount of damage, especially once you're leveled up with all your gear activated. Now it's important when you shoot off the barrage that you get in as close as possible to the enemy, or at the very least have higher ground than them so it's easier to land all the rockets. For this reason, it's a good idea to use your flying to swoop down on unsuspecting people and unleash the nastiness on them. At level 5 you pick up the ultimate, and it can be used in a variety of ways. You can use it after a missile barrage to cap it off with a gigantic hit, which is almost guaranteed to take out any non-tank if you landed a good amount of the barrage. You can use it to finish off someone that's running away that has low health, and if you're coordinating with your team, this could even be someone halfway across the map if you're really good at guiding the missile. Another use for the ultimate is to take out those players that like to hang out on the back lines with low health instead of returning to base to get healed. I find the Eldred do this a lot because they don't have shields, and marquee players tend to do this as well, so the ultimate is a great way to make them pay for that decision. The ultimate is also really good for taking out a group of minions, which I will often do on Meltdown if they're about to score points for the other team. Quick ultimate to the wave and no points for them, and I don't even have to be in the area. I can shoot it from the backfield and just guide it in. Now on top of the ultimate, you get 2 additional damage increases at level 6 and level 7. Level 6 gets you the increased damage to homing rockets, which improves your burst damage, and level 7 increases your rocket damage, which also increases your burst damage as well as your sustained damage, but does require you to aim better. Now the level 5 and 8 Helix options help you get out of the fray once you've unleashed your barrage with the increased flight speed, as well as having your shields pop up whenever you use liftoff. So everything is starting to synergize really well for this aerial assassin playstyle. On top of that, you likely have at least 2 pieces of gear up and running now, so you're really starting to hurt at this point. Level 9 and 10 are just bananas. You pick up the increased Hawkeye damage at level 9 and the damage over time effect on your ultimate at level 10. It's just silly amounts of damage on your barrage now. You could swoop in, blow someone to smithereens, and be out in seconds. The only issue I run into at the top levels is having so much fun destroying people that I get overconfident and make a bad decision to get myself killed. It's kind of hard to resist swooping in on 3 people when you know you can rip the first person to shreds in a single barrage. So there you go, the missile barrage build for Benedict. Seriously try this out because it's so much fun. Just give yourself some time to adjust to those slow moving rockets. I hope it works well for you on the battlefield, and be sure to tell me how it went in the comments. I love hearing from you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.